Hello, I'm Antonio Mora. This is the newsandnews.com Day in Brief on Tuesday, February 19th at about 6:30 p.m. An exhaustive New York Times report claims President Trump tried to intervene in the DOJ investigation into Michael Cohen. Trump allegedly asked former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker to put a Trump ally, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jeffrey Berman, in charge of that federal probe. But Berman had already recused himself from his office's investigation precisely because he was a Trump supporter and there'd be a conflict of interest. To a great extent, the article puts forth an obstruction of justice case against Trump, even in its title, Intimidation, Pressure, and Humiliation, inside Trump's 2-year war on the investigations encircling him. Whitaker apparently told Trump there was nothing he could do about Berman's recusal, and there's no evidence he did anything. Trump reportedly then soured on Whitaker, who's now been replaced by Attorney General Barr. In testimony on Capitol Hill, Whitaker said he was not pressured by the White House to take action on any investigation. Some Democrats are already arguing that that means he perjured himself, but Whitaker stands by his testimony. Even though a question from the president might be construed as an order, that is a tough argument to make to prove perjury. A report from congressional Democrats accuses several current and former Trump administration officials of promoting the sale of nuclear power plants to Saudi Arabia, despite repeated objections from the then head of the National Security Council, White House lawyers, and other senior White House officials. They objected on a series of grounds, including national security. But the nuclear power sale is apparently still a possibility and was reportedly discussed as recently as last week in the Oval Office. The federal judge overseeing Roger Stone's criminal case can't be happy with the defendant. She had already issued a gag order against him, but that didn't stop Stone from sharing a picture of the judge on Instagram with what appeared to be small crosshairs next to her head. The accompanying text criticized her. Stone apologized, but he's been ordered to appear in court on Thursday. Nobody ever thought Senator Bernie Sanders could mount such a serious challenge to Hillary Clinton in 2016. This morning he announced that he is running in 2020, but this time he's not an underdog. Ironically, he may have even less of a chance of winning this time around. The Democratic Party has moved significantly to the left since his populist campaign. Many of the announced candidates, including Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Kristen Gillibrand, and Cory Booker, have positioned themselves almost as far to the left as the senator from Vermont, so Sanders is not the novelty he was in the last election cycle. Controversial Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is reportedly leaving the Justice Department in mid-March. Rosenstein had told the White House in January that he'd depart soon after William Barr was confirmed as the new AG. Relations between Rosenstein and his ultimate boss in the Oval Office had been strained since Rosenstein named Robert Mueller as special counsel to take over the FBI investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Former FBI Acting Director Andrew McCabe made matters worse last week during his promotion for his new book, reviving the allegations that Rosenstein had considered recording Trump and possibly lobbying cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office. Trump lashed out yesterday, accusing Rosenstein and McCabe of pursuing an illegal and treasonous plot against him. Increasing evidence supports the theory that Empire actor Jussie Smollett concocted a staged racist and homophobic attack. Reports claim he may have been upset that a racist letter with white powder that was sent to the show's studio did not get a bigger reaction. He is now believed to have paid 2 men to fake an attack against him, pouring chemicals on him and putting a noose around his neck. Some politicians who were very vocal about the case have begun backtracking and are now calling for judgment to be withheld until the investigation is completed. Karl Lagerfeld, the legendary and eccentric fashion designer, has passed away at the age of 85. The German-born Lagerfeld, known almost as much for his trademark look of dark sunglasses, high collars, and a ponytail as for his work as creative director at Chanel, Fendi, and his own label, died of pancreatic cancer in Paris. The very stormy winter of 2019 shows no sign of letting up. A new storm named Petra is currently dumping snow on plain states, but it will start bringing snow and ice to the upper Midwest, including Minneapolis and Chicago, overnight. Winter storm warnings are in place from Omaha all the way to Baltimore and D.C. Venezuela has shut down its maritime border with what used to be the Netherlands Antilles ahead of an opposition effort to bring humanitarian aid into the country. That should tell you all you need to know about the criminal Venezuelan dictatorship. The country's people are starving and dying for lack of basic medicines, but it uses its military to stop food and drugs from coming into the country. The military is almost single-handedly keeping Maduro in power. Trump is ratcheting up the pressure on Venezuela's generals to abandon Maduro, whom he called a Cuban puppet. He warned those generals they will otherwise lose everything. But today, Venezuela's defense minister said opposition leaders would have to pass over the dead bodies of military officials to impose democracy. Meanwhile, families of 6 executives of Houston-based Citgo who are imprisoned in Venezuela are speaking out about the inhumane conditions faced by the men. 5 are Americans. 1 has lost 60 pounds because of malnutrition. In our regular alternate universes segment, the great divide between conservative and liberal media was painfully obvious if you were watching cable news at 4 this afternoon. On CNN, the New York Times story was treated as a massive bombshell, likely evidence of Trump obstruction of justice and of perjury by then acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Hyperbole on both counts. On Fox News, the story was barely mentioned, and then only deep into the show. No mention whatsoever other than that. You can bet the alternate universes would have been reversed if a Democrat were in the White House. Again, if you limit yourself to news from one side or the other, you will never get the whole picture of what's happening in this country. It is also painful evidence of how major media organizations stick to their chosen narratives above all else, becoming active participants in creating the sharp divisions in our body politic. The apex predators, great white sharks, have evolved to become immune to cancer. The first map of the great white's DNA has uncovered a series of mutations that protect against the disease and other age-related conditions. The question now, of course, is whether scientists can figure out a way to use that newly acquired knowledge to find a way to cure cancer in humans. The San Diego Padres have reportedly signed 26-year-old slugger Manny Machado to a 10-year, $300 million deal, the richest in American sports history. For some perspective, the average American would earn approximately $1.4 million over his or her whole lifetime. If my math is right, Machado will make that in less than 18 days. Don Newcomb never made much more than $30,000 a year, but his efforts to desegregate baseball, and by example, the whole country, was invaluable. He was one of the first 10 African Americans to play Major League Baseball. Newcomb died peacefully in Los Angeles, a Dodger until the end at age 92. In his debut season in 1949, he joined Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, and Larry Doby as the first African Americans to play in an All-Star game. He was the first pitcher of any skin color to win Rookie of the Year, MVP, and Cy Young awards during his career. A true American great. We have all those stories updated around the clock, 7 days a week on newsandnews.com, where you'll find all you need to know in one place. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the right of your screen just below this video, and please follow us on Facebook at Real News and News, and follow me on Twitter at AMoraTV. I'll see you again tomorrow.